And we're back in the laboratory. Welcome everyone. This is Chef Mark and I am here cooking. I'm in the lab, I'm doing some recipe testing. I've been working a lot with fresh pasta and I've been trying to perfect it. Pasta seems to be trendier than ever, and specifically hand-rolled pasta. Things like the really traditional styles of ravioli and tortellini. It's just everywhere. Every time I turn on the TV, open a magazine, I'm seeing some chefs who are really making a name for themselves, rolling out pasta and just kind of bringing back some of that tradition. Pasta, fresh pasta specifically, is really steeped in tradition. And I love making it, and I have my own pasta machine here. I want to talk about what makes a great pasta machine and how to use it. So this is an Atlas machine, and it's actually by a company, Mercato. You can see this thing is pretty worn down. I got this machine when I was in high school. I'm dating myself here, but I got this in 1992. So it is extremely old. I just love it. You know, at one point I almost gave it away. I almost put it in the donation box when I was moving because it's heavy, and I'm like, what am I going to be making pasta? Well, all the time now. When I do in-home cooking classes, it's more popular than ever. So what makes a great pasta machine? I love the Atlas pasta machine. I really think it is the best one on the market. And I was going to show you the difference between a really high quality pasta machine and a cheaper version. I bought it was on sale, it was 20 bucks at a restaurant supply store, and I bought it thinking, oh, what's better than one pasta machine than two pasta machines? And when you roll on a cheap machine, what ends up happening is there's not enough pressure. These wheels are supported by plastic and they bend and flex, and as you roll the pasta, you don't get enough compression, and then you get pasta that's, the sheets aren't even. One side is like, it's wedge shaped when you run it through the machine. And it just was awful. As we're cranking, it's skipping gears. I threw it out, and as I was looking for it, I'm like, oh yeah, I took that piece of junk and tossed it in the trash where it belongs. I'm not gonna suffer bad equipment in my kitchen, so I don't have that to show you. A couple things you're looking for though. They make this model in a couple different versions. This is the 150 millimeters wide. They do make a 180. I recommend the 150 for home use. I find that the 180, it's so wide that if you have a big long sheet of pasta, it can get pretty hard to turn. And if you're wanting to do this with your family, maybe you got some kids and this is a really fun thing to do, it's a snowy day today, that would be a perfect thing to do, make pasta with everybody. That's a little hard to use. KitchenAid makes it's like a set of 3 and it attaches to the front of a KitchenAid mixer. That works fantastic. Those are really high quality units. But you gotta run the machine. And I think that motor running the whole time takes away some of the romance of cranking it out by hand. But it certainly is quicker. I like this. Okay, so what to look for here. They make a couple different versions of this. The ones that are full stainless, all these combs and rakes and everything, they're all metal. And you can see this is corroded quite a bit, but that's because it's many, many, many years old. And it's fine. I mean, it's just kind of some surface corrosion, and it certainly doesn't affect the performance. Some of the newer ones, they make these in anodized colors, like pretty colors, like I've seen them in purple and pink and red, and you can match your kitchen. These combs and rails are plastic, and they're actually designed to snap out for easy cleaning. But I find that they flex and they don't work as well. So if you can find one that's all metal, every part is metal, they tend to be a little bit more expensive, but they're worth it. They're better. And again, you can see some corrosion. This thing is, well, I'm not gonna do math on camera. I always tend to fail that, but you can see that it's got some stuff floating around in it. It's probably got some chunks of pasta in there. This has never been washed, ever, 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 ever. When I get done using it, I just brush it off like so, maybe with a pastry brush, and I put it away. Don't put it in the dishwasher, don't spray it with water. If you get big chunks of pasta kind of stuck in it, let's say your dough is too wet, just let it dry a day or two or a week, whatever it takes, and then just shake it out and just run it a little bit. And it'll come loose, it'll come clean. I've had this extremely messy and it's come clean. Comes with a handle and a clamp, and this handle works in 3 positions. works here to roll the pasta. There's a knob, and these numbers are very faint because this is very old. This starts on number 1. The new ones start on number 0, which is fine. I find that I go to number 5 on this, and that's about as thin as I ever need to be. Number 6 is paper thin. You can always read a newspaper through it. On the new ones, I've discovered you can go up to number 6 for things like pasta, like raviolis. Number 7 starts to get a little too thin. And then there's a wide cutting blades here, and then a narrow cutting blades here. So I've got some pasta dough here. We got some flour. We got a pasta machine. Should we make some pasta? Yeah, I think so. Before I do that though, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Did that? Thanks, appreciate that. It means a lot to me. All right, let's make some pasta. Okay, we are ready to roll pasta. I have some pasta dough here. There's a lot of pasta doughs out there. Most of them call for eggs, flour, pinch of salt, some oil. The best recipes are scaled up to the gram. 400 grams of flour, and then you even gram out the weight of the eggs. Because if you buy large eggs, there could be a 40 or 50 gram difference in weight between them. And that gives you the most accurate dough. This dough, I just kind of eyed out. And a little on the wet side. Here in Colorado, I find that making like accurate pasta dough is tricky unless you're really scaling stuff out. So I've got some bench flour here. Just a quick tip, when you're doing flour and you're sprinkling it, don't sprinkle like that, it clumps. You want to throw your flour kind of like this. All right, one of the tips I learned here, one of the tricks, is make sure your dough is nice and wide. If you go in thin, it won't get any thicker. It'll only get longer. So whatever width you start at is the width that you're pretty much gonna end at. Make sure you're on number 1 or number 0, the widest number. I've made that mistake too, where I've gone to roll pasta through and I'm starting on a really low number and it doesn't fit. Okay, so right off the bat, what I want to do is trim to make this as square as possible, just so I don't get kind of weird shapes. If you start square, you'll end square. I do like to have a little bit of a tag on each side, and I'll show you why here. Okay, so I'm going to run this through. If that doesn't happen 10 times a day when you're making pasta, then maybe you're not doing it right. Okay, they all do that. All right, so run through, and then I'm gonna run it through twice on the first number, so number 1. Okay. I'm gonna run through one more time because I got a little bit of a fold there, which you want to avoid. Okay. All right, so what I've discovered works great is this technique here. I'm gonna go to number 2. What I do is I take my hand and I rotate it so it's facing me. Then I'm going to use my thumb, like a one-hand clapping motion, to hold the dough as it's coming out so I can roll the dough over my hand as it's getting longer. So I'm going to run through, see how my palm's up, and my thumb is hooking the dough, and then I run through the opposite side. So this went in first, now I switch, so now the other side of the dough goes through. I'm going to go to number 3. Okay. Run it through once, roll it over the back of my hand. You want to use the back of the hand so your fingers don't punch holes in the dough. Okay, hold the dough, go to number 4. This is how you can do this by yourself as well. One of the things that I find is tricky is like if you set it down and then you have to change the number and then pick it back up, it takes way more time than if you just hold the dough, crank with one hand, work with the other. The other thing you want to avoid as your dough gets longer, I'll run this through one more time here, is if you run it through, okay, and it really is, you want to get the wheels turning first. And I'm being a little messy because I'm demonstrating, but you want to get the wheels turning first before you run your dough through. And I'm folding a little bit. This dough's a little on the wet side. Okay, so I'm coming through, get the dough, wheel started. Let's say you do this. You run it all the way through, and then you pull this out, and it's kind of folded. It doesn't look as nice. So that's why I like to kind of run it through over and over again on the same, without putting it down, so I can kind of maintain good tension on it. This is number 5. And this is pretty thin. And this is the thickness I would use for things like raviolis, any stuffed pasta. Okay, here we go, getting long. So now I'm gonna use the back of my hand to kind of support the dough a little bit and then pull it all the way through. Fantastic, okay? Some things I would do a little differently here. See, I have some flour clumped up there. You want your pasta to have a fair amount of dryness for things like ravioli because we're going to put a filling in there that's relatively wet. But that's a nice sheet of pasta. And let's cut this and see how the noodles turn out. All right, so I'm going to take the side that's got a little bit of a tag to it. And I like that so that I can kind of aim it through here. This is the cutting wheel. Watch this, this is magic. Okay. It's gonna come through. Look how nice that is. If your pasta is dry enough, it'll be fully separated. So if your pasta is really sticking together, see, this is sticking together just a little bit. But if it's really nice and dry, I'm gonna dry it out with just a touch of flour. You'll see that we get really nice cuts, so we don't have to go through and separate them all. Okay, I'm going to try that on the other setting here, kind of the angel hair, the finer setting. Ooh, look how nice that is. Okay, sometimes I go a little thicker on this dough so that it has a little bit of a square appearance, but this is lovely. Oh, that's going to be great. All right. Let's roll out some more pasta. I got a little trick to show you. Okay, here we go. We're gonna roll out some more pasta. Oh, move the handle over. All right, we're back to number 0, number 1, depending on your machine. Okay. Here's a little trick I learned too. If you run through and your dough just looks wet, needs a little bit of work, particularly if it's tearing, sometimes I fold it in half. I don't know how traditional this is, but it works. I find it works really pretty well. And then roll that through like so. And that kind of helps incorporate the dough, make sure all the moisture is pulled out of it. Okay, here we are. Don't worry about these little bits of trim and scrap. You know, pasta dough is just flour and a couple eggs. So, you know, when you watch the professionals that make pasta by hand, like the really old school way, you kind of almost be surprised at how much, you know, waste and trim they have. But they know what they've learned is that you're better off, particularly when you're making shaped pasta like raviolis, tortellini, things like that, you're better off having really accurate cuts and losing a little bit of trim than you are trying to use every tiny little bit, because then you end up losing less in your pasta water when you're cooking them. They're less likely to break apart. All right. Okay, twice on number 3. See how my thumb hooks? My hand is facing me. Okay, and you know, it's funny, I've been doing that for years, but only recently did it occur to me that that's something that I could be teaching, that little trick right there. Okay, so if you get a really long sheet of pasta, which this is not, but we're gonna make it long, because I got a cute little trick to show you. Certainly not traditional, but kind of fun to do. Okay, so we're gonna run it through on number 5. I'm gonna take this dough, I'm gonna hook it, like so. And then, I call this the conveyor belt method. So what we're doing here is my left hand I shake like this, and my right hand's cranking. And let's see how thin this will go. I don't even know. You know, I usually only go to number 5. So let's go to number 6. And it barely turns to number 6, mainly because I probably never put it on that setting. Oh, that's thin. I can feel there's a lot of tension there. Look at the difference right here. I don't know if you can see the difference. Like, just see how you can see my hand. Like, it's like you can only see my hand through the one. The other is not quite as transparent. Look how long this is getting. All right, there we go. So, I've seen professionals do this. I don't know, maybe if somebody in Italy is watching this, they might take major offense to it, and if so, I apologize. But, you know, sometimes when you're in a kitchen by yourself and you're working hard all day, you just gotta roll off some sheets of pasta. any advantage you can get, you take. This is getting pretty long now. So this is now number 7, and I honestly have never made pasta this thin in this machine, so this is kind of fun. This would be for like a laminated pasta dough. You take 2 sheets of dough and you can put things like fresh herbs in between them. What the heck? Let's go all the way. Number 7. That's as thin as she goes. Okay. And so for laminated dough, what you would do is you would put things like fresh herbs and then 2 layers of dough on top of each other and run it through the machine. And you could take like edible flowers and herbs and run that through the dough and then make some interesting shapes and designs that way as well. All right, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, fun. All right. Okay, guys, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this dough, but I'm gonna cut some noodles. Should we cut some noodles? Why not? All right. All right, so I'm gonna cut this with a knife here, just along the cutting wheels. All right, and let's cut some on this linguine setting here. Oh my gosh, it's so long. Here's what I'm gonna do. Okay, off to the races. Now I'm just being silly, but it's kind of fun for the sake of experimentation. And we would never make noodles this long to serve somebody. That's just ludicrous, but she's chopping through that. And here's the thing, if you want kids, particularly if you have children, or I don't have kids of my own, but I have nieces and nephews, and I like making pasta with them because it gets them engaged, working in the kitchen. And it's fun. It is fun. I'm having fun. I mean, you know, that might not be the most practical way to make pasta, but look how nice that looks. I never make pasta that thin. I love that. It's almost like a consistency of an egg noodle you would buy and do like with beef stroganoff. So just a few ways to make some noodles. Look at the difference between number 7. See how ribbony and thin they are? I expected them to really stick together, but they didn't at all. Here's our number 5 on that angel hair setting. If there's another name for this, an Italian name for that I'm not using, I apologize. I like making pasta, but I am not I don't know all the traditional names. I didn't grow up with it, so I just kind of know what I know. And then here's more of that tagliatelle style or linguine, a little bit more of a thicker noodle. When you cook these, they puff up quite a bit actually from the eggs. So I'm excited to see how these cook. I'm probably going to toss these really delicate noodles just with some truffle oil. And then these noodles can hold up to something a little bit firmer, like a ragu, tomato sauce. And then this angel hair, I would serve with, maybe I saute some small shrimp and some tomatoes and garlic and some shallots and just a splash of white wine and some butter. I think that would taste really nice with those. Okay, well this is Chef Mark, and in a laboratory with my pasta. Hope you had fun watching this, as much fun as I did making it. It's been a great time. Pasta machines, you know, they're kind of rare to find right now. They're hard to find, like a lot of things. So I've seen them at some of the local cooking schools around here in Denver, at least, have them available. And a lot of places that offer pasta classes will also sell the equipment to go along with that. So get a machine, make some pasta. If you do it wrong, you know, all you're doing is you're still ending up with pasta, which is the best part of making pasta, is that we get to cook and eat this. Everyone, this is Chef Mark with Appliance Factory in the laboratory. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for liking and subscribing.